10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
Good morning, Sudbury. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh, and I'm glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us. We're live each and every weekday morning on CKLU 96.7 FM on terrestrial radio, and also streaming live on the internet at cklu.ca. There's a Radio Player Canada app. You just click on it. You can stream us. You download it. You take us with you. You listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. We are also live on facebook.com/Sudbury News, youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and follow the channel, the page. We're also found on those two platforms immediately following the show on demand, along with x.com/Sudbury News and Sudbury.news, which is our news aggregator made in answer to our federal government making policies that do not allow us to share news, whether it's international, national, regional, local news, on Facebook, the world's largest social media platform. We cannot do that in Canada. And so we've made Sudbury.news an aggregator to aggregate all the local news into one convenient location, so you can just grab your news that way. And sharing it, well, you have to be a little bit more, I guess, creative these days in sharing your news. I use something called Snipping Tool. Microsoft, most people have Microsoft, and you go into the search on the bottom left, you put Snipping Tool, and then it comes up, you open it, and then you can take a picture of an article, at least of the headline, and then you go to your Facebook page and you hit what's on your mind, and then you just you copy the picture you just took off Snipping Tool, and you paste it into what's on your mind, as if you're going to share a picture with someone, and at least you can share, some news. You can't share the whole article, which I don't know why our government is in favor of, limiting the amount of news that can be shared in our country. I don't know the reason for it. They said it's to make the media outlets more money. That's what they said. Do we always believe everything governments say? Well, you can, and that's your right to do that. And but that's what they say. So, but you're no longer allowed to share news on Facebook. All the news outlets' Facebook pages are not available. So if you search Sudbury.com on Facebook, look what happens, or CTV or CBC. You look for those on Facebook. Look for the New York Post, the New York Times. And look what happens in Canada when you try searching their Facebook pages. It reminds you of certain types of countries that censor their citizens' news. And I don't think it's appropriate for our government to do that when they claim to be a democracy. Free and open press is usually part of a democracy. And so I would encourage whoever are in positions that influence and make those decisions to really review what decision you've made and go back to the table and change that, because your citizens should be allowed to consume the media and all of the new ways that media are able to use the tools available to them. And it shouldn't be censored, and it shouldn't be cut out for whatever reason you're saying. So that's that. And we're going to have a great show this morning. We're going to start off with a little bit of weather, and then we'll dive into some news headlines. We'll get your comments. We'll do some morning shout outs and all of that when we come back right after this. Stay tuned. It's going to be a great show, I promise, or your money back. Okay, so this is the way it's going to be today. And we got some weather for you. Look at this. It's 11 degrees currently. It's mostly cloudy. Today, we can expect mainly cloudy with a 30% chance of showers and a high of 22, a little bit warm. And your UV index will be 5 or moderate. Tonight, cloudy, wind becoming northeast 20 kilometers after midnight, low of 10. Thursday, September 11th, it'll be cloudy. Then a mix of sun and cloud in the morning. The high will be 20, UV index 6 or high. Overnight will be clear and a low of 7. That's tomorrow night. And then Friday, mix of sun and cloud with a high of 21. And just in time for Saturday, you got a 30% chance of showers, high of 18. Mix of sun and cloud for Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 19, 21, and 23 degrees, respectively. That is your Sudbury weather, and it is brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca, and we'll be back with news headlines, your comments, and more right after this. Okay, so here you are, here I am, here we are, and let's see who we got on so far. We have Nana is here on YouTube. Good morning and blessings, everybody, with a heart emoji, much appreciated. Pierrette, a good morning to you on YouTube and on Facebook. Judy, good morning. Monique, good morning. Sudbury with a cool shade smiley emoji. Jerome is joining us. Good morning. Truth Troopers, if your heart is open, your eyes are wide open. Well, there you go. That's much appreciated and very true. And Monique, grand rising, heart emoji, exclamation points. Northern Hillbilly, good morning, people. Belinda, good morning. Fear is what if. Faith is even if. There you go. Now, it'll take a while to let that one sink in, even though it sounds simple. So fear is what if, and faith is even if. Just to break that down a little bit. So what if has a lot of unknowns and sounds scary because unknown is scary, right? A lot of times fear is just what's in your head. It's not an actual thing that happens to you. You're just afraid of the unknown. So what if this? What if that? And if you said, well, even if this happens, I'm going to take it on. Even if it happens, that's okay. I'll be all right and things will work out, right? So what if and even if are two similar questions, I guess you can say, but totally different angles that have different results. So thank you so much for that. That was very deep, brief, but deep. And Pat, good morning from Grundy Provincial Park. Wow, look at you. All of our listeners and viewers traveling all over the place and checking in wherever they're at. Much appreciated. Monique, it's all about control, and it always has been. I don't think it's been any different throughout history. Pierrette, you got the capital letters here. Because of our government, our international Nazi gangsters gaslighting Canadians. It's always interesting when we use the 4-letter word from Germany. They're used as an example. Both sides, all sides using them when you want to say somebody is taking things way too far. And yes, I think you can just stand back and say our government's gone way too far in many ways. Some people feel it needs to be even harsher. We need more measures, more government will make our lives easier and better. I'm not particularly of that nature. I like to have rules that are clear and then allow people to make the decisions based on fair and honest and just rules for our lives, and that also should include government. Belinda here says, Nepal's parliament was set on fire and the prime minister resigns as protests spiral. Holy moly. Yes, I heard the Nepalese people here in Sudbury were gathering recently, I think it was yesterday, for someone in this community who they lost. And I didn't realize that all that was going on in their home country. Monique, we are led by criminals, basically, controlled and led by criminals. And yeah, I think there's been criminal actions, obviously. So if then you want to just say if someone who commits a criminal action is a criminal, well, have they been, tried in a court of law and found guilty and punished? No. However, we do know through different means that they have been committing criminal acts as they would be defined in law, right? However, some people, I guess you can say, can be and have been in the past above the law, right? Laws apply to you and the general public, but some people, whether it's because they have more money than other people or they're just in positions of power, they don't seem to be subject to the same laws as everyone else. And it's just a thing. It's something that's not new. It's happened for all of time. And it continues to happen today, although many people demand that it might be different in our current condition in this world. You'll never have total justice, given that good and evil are living side by side. A lot of times one will prevail over the other. And Northern Hillbilly says, is the Great Reset now? I think it's been going on for sure, and I think it will continue. And Marianne, good morning, everyone, from Barrie, Leichton, shared as usual. Vin's joining us now, too. Good morning, guys. Belinda says, good old Doug Ford opposes speed cameras. We'll get into that a little bit later. Actually, maybe that'll be our first story. Who knows? And wants them taken down everywhere. Claim they're just a cash grab. And that is what he says. And we'll talk about the kind of, which we always do, the type of reporting that we get from our main news sources. And we'll critique a little bit of the way that they covered this particular story in Toronto, the main CTV, national CTV. It's always interesting the way they cover it. So it's one thing to cover a story, and then it's another thing the way you cover it. The spin, as we know, you can put on things, or what you leave out, or what you emphasize, or just wording you put in there. We'll look at that in a few moments. Morning, Quebec in the house. That's Sheila. Yes, good morning, Sheila. Thanks for being on. Liette, good morning, everyone from Collingwood. Collingwood, one of the most beautiful towns in Ontario. If you haven't been there, just give yourself a little ride over to those parts of the country and just take it in. Wonderful place. And Marianne says, wonder if he got a ticket. That's Doug Ford, and that's why maybe he's so upset about these speed cameras. Brian, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. Monique says there's something coming. I agree. There definitely is. More than something. A lot of somethings are coming for sure. And I hope everybody is getting prepared for a lot of change. A lot of change. If you're not used to change, which some people aren't, maybe get a book on change and how to cope with change, because lots of changes are coming. And Vin, NOC Audit on YouTube, did a couple walkthroughs in Sudbury. Oh, interesting. If you can message me a little bit more on that, Vin, I would really appreciate it. More information on that. And Brian says Ford is a shill. He's a shill. Says things to make it sound like he's one of us. Well, again, at least I would hope some politicians are at least making that effort. It seems like a lot of them don't even do that anymore. Like, at least I appreciated the fact they were trying to sound like they were trying to be like one of us, at least. At least there's somewhat of an effort. I find most politicians today are just so emboldened and brazen to just, they know they can't relate to people anymore. So they just speak word salads and they just do kind of whatever they do for whatever reasons they do them. Okay, Marianne says they're all cash grabs. Honestly, it's the cameras are for tracking everyone, and I would think that's part of it. I would think that does go along with its cameras. They do track everything, that is for sure. Where is this information going to? What companies are the government's using for these cameras? What happens to our personal information? Really, right? What happens to our personal information anywhere? I think we live in a surveillance state. It's getting more and more of a surveillance state as technology improves, as AI makes it possible to crunch a lot of the data that's taken from the cameras and from digital tracking in different forms. Cell phones are a huge example of that, right? Okay, so let's see here. Yes, appreciate it, Vin. Thank you so much. Let's dive in, see if there's anyone else joining us here. Let's dive right in with our first story of the day, because it does have a Sudbury side to it, but this is from CTV National News, and I wonder if it plays a commercial, I'll have to then do something else here. But as far as I know, I've played it already. I got the commercials out of the way, and it should be ready to go, but you just never know. Let's see here. CTV National News covering the speed camera situation in Toronto, Ontario.
Someone is waging war on Toronto's speed cameras, knocking them out under cover of darkness. At least 16 were damaged just last night. The city is calling it coordinated vandalism. CTV's Alison Hurst is in Toronto with the mystery and the controversy. Alison, what are police saying today?
Sandy, police are taking this very seriously. They say that overnight these 16 speed cameras were vandalized. They have additional resources coming in to help them investigate and look at all of the, analyze everything they can to try and track down the suspects. And this also happened just a couple of days after another speed camera on the other side of the city was vandalized. That was the seventh time it was vandalized. So they are taking a service-wide approach.
This is an ongoing investigation, and it's been ongoing for the last several months from the first occurrence occurred. So we're actively canvassing, speaking to residents. And again, I must say, we're appealing to the public. If anyone see any persons or appears to be suspicious around these cameras, please call police.
All right, Alison, talk to us also. The Premier has weighed in. We know we heard from the Mayor earlier, but talk to us about what politicians are saying about all of this.
Yes, we did. We did hear from Mayor Olivia Chow as well as from Premier Doug Ford. Mayor Olivia Chow saying that these speed cameras are in areas where there's community, there are kids walking to schools, and it's really important that they're in place to try and reduce speeds to keep everyone safe in those areas. Meanwhile, the Premier was saying that it's time for cities to look at alternative traffic calming ways and to scrap these these speed cameras. Back to you, Sandy.
All right, CTV's Alison Hurst in
Alison Hurst in Toronto talking about Doug Ford just at the last sliver of that story. So that wasn't going to be the story for them. If you just listen to that, the main thing that they talked about was the police enforcing the fact that if they catch you doing it, and they're gonna investigate, and if you're doing it, they're gonna punish you. And this particular police officer not even, didn't seem to, wasn't born in Canada. He's a new Canadian coming in. So there's a bit of a thing there too. So the police officers that we're hiring in Canada, not even from Canada, so not even familiar with the laws we once had. They are familiar with the laws of the countries they've come from, which is fine. And there's good laws in other countries. However, if they're enforcing laws, I would think to myself, if you're coming from a different country with different laws, and now you're enforcing, like, I don't think Canadians go to other countries and become law enforcement. I don't think that's what happens. Like, I don't think there's many police officers in Jamaica that are Canadian, or let's say Zimbabwe or China. When was the last time you seen a Canadian police officer in China or India? You just don't. You don't see that. And at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong with the fact that there's no Canadian police officers in Toronto heading up, Beijing's head of police. You know what I mean? Because they would be worried that a Canadian would maybe come in and enforce laws that aren't China's. And I would think they have every right to believe that, because they're a country with their own laws and they'd want to enforce them. But in Canada, you can see it's an interesting dynamic, and it's not the fact that I have anything, and I don't. Actually, I welcome immigration. I love the idea that there's many people coming here, and I would hope that we're doing it in the right way. But at the same time, it's open to criticism if we're not doing it in the right manner. So I don't know. So that was one thing I just noticed from that. They wanted to really focus on what the police were doing to just, hey, if you're up to this thing and you're going on speed cameras and you're taking them down and whatever, we're going to prosecute you. Not, hey, are these speed cameras even right in the first place in terms of Canadian law as a police officer? Wouldn't you be interested into what these speed cameras are doing to our citizens in terms of their rights, if you're there to enforce the law and human rights in general, or just privacy rights, or any kind of rights to do with any kind of laws? That's what police officers are there to do. They're to uphold the law. So if I was a police officer, I'd be asking myself those things. I'd be saying, okay, are these cameras legal? Are they right? Is that something that I would think in this country we should be doing? Well, we have Alberta already. The Alberta premier came out and said, no, they're stopping it in Alberta. They're stopping the speed cameras. And good morning, Aaron. Thanks for joining us. I saw you made a comment there that you said these cameras are just the beginning to people when they first started. And I think you're going to be right, that they're now starting to bring in other cameras. They're bringing in cameras in Sudbury too that just recognize your license plate. I think 16 to 20 cameras, something like that they're bringing in, or more, just to recognize your license plate, just in case you didn't get that sticker on time. They're going to charge you. They need to make money off you not doing the right thing. It's one thing to say it's for safety. It's another thing to make money off of it. And there I questioned that as well, which brings us to our Sudbury Star article on this particular issue. Let's see here. I just got to get this all suited up before we get out of here and into here. So, where are we at? We're here, we're there, we're everywhere. Oh, there we go. I was a little ahead of myself. So, the Sudbury Star article from this morning talking about this very thing and the Sudbury connection, because we do have our own speed cameras. There was a speed camera on Calmole Hill Road, or the Calmole Road, I guess you can say, but there's hills there, so nicknamed Calmole Hill. So there was a camera there just by the bridge. It was only there 5 days or so altogether. 5-6 days out of like 2 months or 3 months. It was taken, thrown into the bush by someone. And it's not the only camera in Sudbury that has similar issues to this, right? So we have people who don't agree with them, and they take things into their own hands, because it doesn't seem like the ones that are making the decisions are asking the same questions that citizens are asking about our privacy and about who's taking this information. What are they doing with it? Is it the beginnings of a surveillance state similar to China? And that's what we know our government and our new leader in his book Values, Mark Carney, if you read it. And good morning, Diane. Thanks for joining us. You can see that's exactly where we're heading. So just read the book if you want to know what it's kind of like. When you want to see what any leader is doing, just read their book on what they'll just tell you what they're going to do. It's not conspiracy theories. They'll just come out and tell you in their book if you read it. And Rogue, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so you got a poll from Sudbury Star. It'll be interesting to see what the results are of the poll. Premier calls speed cameras like those in Sudbury a cash grab. Take our poll. Hopefully, the cities will get rid of them, according to Doug Ford, or I'm going to help them get rid of them very shortly, he says. A couple pictures of our own vandalized speed cameras in Sudbury. Premier Doug Ford gets rid of automated cameras, which he is threatening to do. It will cost the city of Greater Sudbury hundreds of thousands of dollars. How much, you say? Well, the city introduced speed cameras in 2024, and the staff report in March said the municipality here had earned more than $750,000 in profit during that time. And I'm not sure if this is a video of Doug Ford himself, because this is a very heavy website that's very clunky or whatever. Not sure, but maybe I could check in here as soon as it allows me to scroll up, because it's very, very lagging, because it's very, very... it's the website needs to have some work done to it for sure. So if anyone has anything to do with the Sudbury Star's website, and you're talking to someone who has some ability to do something with it, it's very... it's just very slow. It just takes forever to do anything on it. Just trying to read an article and scroll down. So here we got the video. I made it big. So let's see what he's talking about. Can I pause the video? Can I rewind the video? We're not sure. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like I can. Who knows? Yeah, whatever. Here we go. Let's rewind this thing as much as we can, and let's see if Doug Ford's talking about these speed cameras.
Staffers have been appointed to a committee selecting judges. It's been deemed blatant patronage. Are you okay with this?
100% I am. We got elected to get like-minded people in appointments, and by the rule.
And so the answer to that is no. He's not talking about speed cameras. I thought maybe we'd just luck out and having that soundbite from him in the article, but no, he's talking about judges and who appoints them and what his plans are with those. Anyways, so the same report the city issued also said that automated speed cameras work as they get drivers to slow down in the areas that they're deployed, and effect that continues even after the cameras are moved. So they're slowing people down while they're making almost $1 million a year. That's a pretty good takeaway, that they're making $750,000 while you're slowing down. Many people will say it's incredible. Like that's an amazing revenue generating thing for the city. Good morning, Andrew. Thanks for being on. Incredible revenue generating thing for the city. At the same time, as my computer crashes over here, it slows people down, and I remember reading the articles about the city being very happy with the results of the speed cameras, saying they're working because they're slowing people down. Now, what I was concerned about is they were put there in the spirit that they're going to help our streets be safer. So let's say you're doing a report for a university assignment and you're like, can you show that putting speed cameras up in the city will make the city safer, and make an essay on this subject, and that's the reason why we have speed cameras. So if you were to prove this after a year, can you prove that the speed cameras made the city safer? And all you said was, yeah, they slowed people down and we regenerated $750,000. So yeah, they made the streets safer. You would fail. You'd fail that assignment. So what you would be expected to do is show the safety statistics first. Say, well, in 2022, before the cameras were installed, we had 67 accidents, 4 fatalities, and 7 critically injured people on this street, right? And the main reason for this was thought to be speed. And but since the experiment of putting in these cameras, not only did it generate $750,000 to what we don't know where the money's going to go, because that's all it does. We just collect money and then we just spend it without any accountability. But that's a whole other thing. You would then have to say, well, since the cameras, there's only been 2 accidents in the same period of time. Like if you're taking, a period of time, the same month. So from October to March or whatever, from March to October of 2022, and then compare it to March to October of 2025 when the cameras were installed. These are the safety statistics, and it proves we've made the streets safer because there's only been 2 accidents, no fatalities, no critical injuries, and so on and so forth. Right? And appreciate that, Greg. That's awesome. And good morning to you. Thanks for being on. Talking about due process and rule of law here. You always have some very in-depth, well thought out comments. Much appreciated. Thank you very much. And so with this, if you're doing this essay or this report for university, you would have to show that. But the city apparently doesn't need to speak in these terms. They can just tell you they're going to put speed cameras up. They're going to charge you quite a bit of money if you're found speeding. And I feel really bad for people just coming into the city to go to Costco from North Bay, Timmins, Sault Ste. Marie, wherever. And they don't know where these cameras are set up. And, most people, it's normal, police included. I was just talking to Tom Price yesterday about his experience on the highway. And police were just speeding right past him, and he was already going 15 over the speed limit, right? And so including our law enforcement travel at speeds that are in excess of our speed limits, like not because they're going to a call, just because they do. How many times have you seen a police officer at a red light at midnight or whatever, and they just flash their lights and they go through the light? They're not on a call. They just don't want to wait for that light. And you don't want to wait for that light either, but they're able to do that and you're not. And that's just life. And speaking of life, we have someone with that in their handle, Trad Life. It looks like here. Good morning to you. Thanks for being on. And so that's the type of report you would expect, but they just come out and say it's for your safety. That's why we're putting these cameras in, because it's dangerous if you speed. It's just a known thing. You speed, dangerous, right? But they don't give any statistics to show that. And I'll agree that if you're speeding, it will make conditions more unsafe. Like there's more chances something can happen, but at least show the statistics. How many accidents? How many injuries? How many insurance claims on these roads that you're putting the cameras on? And then after the cameras, compare it. And that will show safety. But if you're just saying our goal is just to get people to slow down and make a lot of money off of it, then that's fine. Then you've reached your goal, right? You've reached your goal. You got people to slow down and you made lots of money. Good. At least you were honest when you came out and said why you're putting these cameras. Now, but some other questions we have though is where is the information going that's being collected from these cameras? What company? What are their policies for privacy? And can we trust them? And is there any audits that they get in terms of the privacy? And who's auditing them? And what are the results? This is our private information. We're driving on our roads that we paid the taxes for to build them, to maintain them. And it's the city we pay taxes for to commute and live in. And so if you go above and beyond that, and now you're utilizing something that we paid for to then survey us and use the information in a way that we don't even know it's being used, there is something there that's not right. So there is an issue and it needs to be talked about there. And it's not. Our local politicians just brush it off. No. Obviously it's there for safety. No, we looked into it. And no, the information is not being kept. It's not being used. Just go with us on this. Don't worry about it. Nothing to see here. Right? So I've always had a problem with these speed cameras. Not because I don't think that we need to maybe slow down or enforce the law or have streets be safer. No, all these things, yes, I agree with all of them. However, the way that we go about them is where I have an issue with. I don't believe you need to force people into keeping laws. I think you give them the choice to keep a law, and if they then break it, and in a way that, what's eventually going to happen is everyone's going to be surveyed. You break one little law, it just comes right out of your bank account right away. You jaywalked, that's a $10 right out of your bank account kind of thing, because we're going to force everyone to keep all the laws. And there's a lot of people that love that idea because you're like, that way, no one will be able to get away with anything, and we'll be able to have a real law-abiding society. And that's China right now. China is the surveillance state. It's a law-abiding society that's got everything you need, right? And so let's see here. I think I even have a video on this now that we're speaking about it that will give a little bit. If some people are like, what's he talking about? I have no idea what he's talking about. He needs to prove everything that he's talking about because he needs to do more research in his volunteer radio show on his local radio station. Well, here you go.
Chinese engineers have built Skynet. Do you remember Skynet from the Terminator? Do you know that the Chinese called their 700 million closed-circuit TV camera monitoring system that recognized everyone's faces and everyone's gait? They call that Skynet? Do you know the engineers who were asked about that said, we're building the good Skynet? You know how close we are to that here? The technology's there. We copied the Chinese during the pandemic. If you don't think that we could do that again, you're sadly mistaken. And you might ask, well, what would protect us against that? And the answer is something like the willingness of each of us, the devotion that each of us must manifest to what should be properly put in the highest place. And it's not the technological utopia that the power-addled engineers present us with. That's what's happening in China. They're going to produce a totalitarian state that's so complete that George Orwell himself couldn't have imagined it in his worst nightmares. 700 million closed-circuit TV cameras, watching absolutely everything you do. Every single thing you purchase tracked. Every place you go monitored. Every word you say recorded, analyzed, assessed by artificial intelligence. Do you know?
Now I can hear, some people listening to this in earshot. Some people will take offense that there was music along with Jordan Peterson's comments there about China's surveillance state. I apologize that there was music with it for those that bothers them. It just came with the video, so there's no other way I could get it. So the main thing is to get across that a lot of people will think, well, that will never happen here. That will never happen here. Well, if you look at what's happening, so we started with the lights, the red lights. So what was there, 6 of them? That if you went through a red light, you got a ticket. And everyone, hey, sure, it's only going to be that. So yeah, I mean, that makes sense. You don't want people going through red lights. That's very unsafe, right? So that's where it started. And then there were speed cameras. Then they came out. And they didn't get rid of the red lights. They kept those, and then they had speed cameras, and they switch where they go in the city. And eventually, more than likely, there's probably plans where they'll just make them permanent where they are, because they're a great revenue generator, obviously, right? And we got lots of things we're going to need to pay for because we're going into a lot of debt in this city. And now we have the license plate camera readers. So you can see where things are going. Or they can see where you're going. How about that? You can hopefully see where things are going, but they can definitely see where you're going and what you're doing. And could it be the beginnings? Where does something like this start? Anyways, it has to start somewhere. So in Sudbury, you just look at how it's been rolled out. It started with the cameras on the lights, and then it started with the speed cameras. And now we got the license plate cameras. Now what? What's next? There's people in the city who know they probably have some kind of plan. These things just don't happen. They don't just wake up one morning and go, how about we put lights how about we just put cameras on the lights? That doesn't just happen. That's planned. They got to think of the idea and then have meetings about it, source out all of the people that can actually do it for them, companies that can do it, call them, get a quote, have them do it, and then install it. And then tell the citizens that they're doing it and why. So there's lots, it's a very coordinated effort. So they already know 10 years from now what they're going to be doing in this city in terms of surveillance, right? And here you have the model told to me by my chair of my department in university, that China is the model for Canada. That's what university professors feel. Most of them. Obviously, Jordan Peterson, a university professor emeritus, doesn't agree with that. And for the reasons why I wouldn't either. Sure, it's one thing to uphold law and to help people to do that. It's another thing to track every single thing anyone does and not allow them the freedom to choose whether or not they're going to commit a crime or not. And if they choose to do it, then there's laws in place that hold them accountable. And I think that system is the best system to work for humanity. And thanks everyone for listening today, for watching. We really appreciate you. It's all the time we got here on Sudbury News Talk on CKLU and CKLU.ca. Thanks for watching on YouTube and Facebook Live. It'll be on those two platforms immediately following the show on demand, along with x.com/Sudbury News, and our news aggregator, Sudbury.news. We'll be on the same platforms at the same times, God willing, tomorrow. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Remember to stay aware, like, share, take care. Have a good day, everyone. Ciao for now.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.